Completely different. We're going to talk about little pet peeves and little pleasant surprises that go with day-to-day life with the Corolla GR. Hey everybody, it's Doc. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about stuff that you don't hear from most car reviewers. Generally, they only get a car for about a week tops. They want to get out the basic information, get those quick hits, and then they move on to the next most popular thing. What we're going to talk about today is little pet peeves and little pleasant surprises that come with the Corolla that you only generally know about if you live with it day to day. We're going to get right to it right now. Now, some of the things that I talk about today, I'm actually going to offer up fixes for, or have already fixed, and some of the things I honestly don't know the fix for. So if you disagree with what I'm saying, or even better yet, if you have an answer or a fix on how to correct some of the things I don't like, please comment in the comment section. I'd love to get a conversation going and hear how you guys are handling some of these issues. So first off, and this will probably be a little bit controversial, one of the things that I find is a pet peeve actually is my forged carbon fiber top. And the reason for that is it looks dirty. It's not. I mean, that's the obvious look of the forged carbon fiber, but it looks water spotted, especially if you look at the rest of the car with the piano black mirrors, the piano black spoiler, and generally the rest of the trim on the car, and then you have kind of the odd duck up here. I wish they would have done the carbon fiber a little bit differently, maybe as an exposed carbon fiber with a little bit of a glossy finish. I don't know. I like it. I just don't particularly love it. A very pleasant surprise with this car, and this may apply to regular Corollas as well, but I've never encountered a car that had windshield wipers that covered the windshield as well as these do. And the whole wiper system I like a lot. That is a massive wiper blade on the driver's side and a very tiny wiper blade on the passenger side, which makes me wonder if they reverse that for the right-hand drives. If you guys know, throw a comment in the section. Love to hear it. While we're on the subject of the wipers, something else I really like in this car, and I do not see very commonly, is the fact that when you do a courtesy wipe, you can actually spray the windshield without the wiper blades wiping, and you can do that a few times, let it soak up the bugs, and then do the wipe. So you can see just a quick jab. The windshield's almost completely covered, and now you can even see the coverage of the wiper blade. Man, I love those wipers. Another pet peeve that I have is, as you can see, my shop building is right down there. It's not far away, maybe a tenth of a mile tops. And sometimes I just want to hop in the car, pop down there, jump out, grab something, and then head back up to the house. And if you don't put the seatbelt on, you'll get the seatbelt chime, which occurs in many other cars. But most other cars, you can disable it with a simple push of a button, just to acknowledge the fact that, yes, I understand I'm not wearing my seatbelt. And but Toyota goes one step further. So when the seatbelt chime starts to go off, there we go, it's not annoying at all. If you ignore it, because there's no way not to ignore it, then it goes ballistic in the volume department. There's no way to disable it. If you guys know a way to disable it, please, please, please tell me in the comment section, because I hate this. Focusing on the interior a little bit here, and the gauge cluster and the controls. There are things I really love about the controls. I do love, and I've said this in other videos, I love the adaptive cruise. I love the Toyota Safety Sense. This is probably one of the best set up cruise control, adaptive cruise, assisted driving setups I've ever seen. And I like the fact that it doesn't completely take over the car like the Tesla. It allows for driver input again, big thumbs up for that. If you want something that's actually more controlling, this is not the one that you'll love. One of the bigger pet peeves that I have is actually with the whole trip computer and average miles per gallon. So the first part about it is, and this looks bad right now because I just refilled and reset everything, but it's inaccurate. I've checked multiple gas tanks full with 200-300 mile trips, and the average is always off somewhere around 2 miles per gallon. And that's kind of a big deal. The other part is the estimated range with does not coincide with the actual total average that you have. And you really can't even judge the gas gauge itself, because I've gone 200 miles and still had the gas gauge above 3/4 of a tank, and then had it drop all of a sudden. So there's something going on there. I don't know what it is, but it must just be a Corolla thing. And with the tiny 13-gallon gas tank that's in this thing, that's kind of a big deal. The other part is primarily setting it up and resetting it. So down here is where we have the trip odometer, and you can cycle through your A, B, and your odometer. Well, in most cars, pretty much every car that I've ever had, if you reset your A or B trip meter, it would reset your total average for that trip meter, and then it would cycle through. Well, in the Corolla GR, what you have to do is you have to cycle through the system to get to your actual where you'd set up your total average gauge. Oh, I lost it. And if you let it go for a second, it won't stick, and then you have to hold the button and reset it. So again, this is kind of goes back to click economics with software and computers, where there's a lot of effort to reset certain things, and then they're inaccurate anyways. So that's kind of a big complaint on my part. I think Toyota could do a lot better. So here's a tiny pet peeve, and this is one that I'm going to easily fix. I'll do a video for you guys later, and that is the rattly glove box. Now, it's probably not a big issue for most of you, but since I live on gravel and we have a lot of potholes, there's a lot of bumps, and if there's any rattles in the car, it will certainly bring it out. Now, like I said, I've got an easy fix for that, so I will do that in another video. The thing I find funny is the fact that in a car where they put a whole lot of effort into making it structurally more capable and solid by adding 50% more welds and a whole bunch of structural adhesive to build a car that really doesn't rattle, we got a little bit of a rattly interior. Again, Toyota, you can do better. Something that I really love about this vehicle, I do love the heated seats and the fact that when you push them on, they stay on. So when you turn the car off, you get out, you come back, they will be on the same setting, and you do not have to reset it every time like pretty much every other car out there. So that is awesome. Kudos to you, Toyota. While we're in this area, and a little bit of a downside, here's the wireless charger. If you have an iPhone that has a big bump for a camera, or you keep your phone in a case, there's a very good chance that this charger will not charge your phone, and so therefore that area becomes useless. Moving over to another little teeny tiny complaint, and that is the fact that Toyota went to only USB-C in the car. I realize that the times are changing, but they could have just as easily put in a double outlet of a USB-A and a USB-C. And my fix for that was simply double PowerPoint with USB-A's. Another complaint, and not a huge complaint, but it's kind of sad that I actually paid for and got this was the optional frameless mirror, which it's a very nice mirror. But underneath we have the HomeLink garage door system with 3 garage doors. Unfortunately, it's not easy to program, and I don't know why. I've just been having a lot of problems with that. And actually, during the process of trying to program it, somehow I managed to deprogram the entire garage door, and I had to redo every one of my garage door openers. This one, the thing I really don't care for it is you can't discern between the three different buttons. So you might accidentally open another garage door. I wish they would have put a little bit more of an elevation as far as a way to feel the difference between these 3 different buttons. One of the common complaints you might see about this car, and actually I don't find it that big of a deal, but again it falls into that pet peeve area, which is kind of lack of storage. There's not a whole lot of storage in this vehicle comparative to, say, a WRX hatchback. So the way I've corrected that, and I love this thing. I don't think they make them anymore. It's a tool organizer. It sits very nicely on my front seat. It doesn't activate the seatbelt chime, thank God, and it's got a little bit of a handle here. What I keep in it, is my spare reading glasses because I'm getting old and blind, some Kleenex, paper towels, clean the windshield, and then first aid kit, stuff like that you really want to have handy. The other part is where to put your phone. This is a remnant from my old Camaro, which is basically just a thing that you slide between the seat, and then you can mount any RAM device on top of it. I like it a lot, and dude, they're like probably $20 on Amazon. I'll throw up an Amazon link for that if anybody's interested, because I do really like that. Most people on the internet complain about 2 things. One, they complain about the piano black, which I agree. It's finger spotty, and I don't particularly care for it. I've got a fix coming up for that. Matter of fact, the box showed up today, and I'm going to attempt to do a wrap. I've never actually done, I've done prepared wraps before, but I've never actually cut and done my own, so that should be interesting. And then the other part is people complain about the lack that there's no armrest. I do not miss the armrest. I think this area is perfect. It's a nice area to set my phone. There's plugins available right next to it, and I think that's the way it should be. So don't bother with the armrest. That and everything I read about them is that they're flimsy anyways. So skip the armrest, keep the cool little tray. So let's talk about doors. And this is another pet peeve that probably only people with kids probably realize. And that is the fact that the rear doors, that's as wide as your rear doors go. So if you're trying to get a car seat into this car, that's going to be a little bit of a pain, or just loading stuff in general. And in contrast, and granted, this is not a great comparison, but if you look at my GMC pickup truck, you see this would be about where the door would open on the Corolla. That's how a door should open on the rear of a vehicle. There's no reason that Toyota couldn't have fixed that with some different hinges. Again, Toyota, you can do better. One of the complaints that I commonly see on the internet is complaining about the brake dust. Well, your car's stopping, so it's going to make brake dust, and I don't know why anybody would care about that. I think it looks kind of cool. What's a little extra dirt with the rest of the dirty car? Interesting, fun-filled fact of this car: the hood is aluminum. The rear hatch, which is our subject now, is made of plastic. Not that I care, it's just kind of an interesting little fact. The big complaint back here, and this has been widely documented on the internet, and I agree with it, is the fact that there is no hatch pop on the remote, and you can't pop the hatch from the inside of the car. So what you need to do is you need to reach under here and pop the hatch. There's also another button up there. The other button allows you to lock the doors from back here, which is kind of handy, so it's not completely bad, but again, Toyota, you could have done better. Another pet peeve, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, is the fact that modern cars do not often come with spare tires. And thank goodness for some clever people on the forum. I was able to basically copy what they did, and I did do a little installation video on it. And thank goodness for the people from Modern Tire, but I was able to actually modify the area back here to keep a spare tire. I've got the jack over there. I've got my my trusty ViAir compressor and a flashlight back here, and I'm very happy to have the safety and security of having a spare in case I need it. The other thing that I don't care for back here is the fact that they didn't bother putting either a USB or a PowerPoint. I would have loved to have seen a PowerPoint. In my case, I actually wired one up. Again, it's very easy to access the battery, so about any idiot can do that. Easy fixes. Another very tiny negative that probably isn't particularly worth mentioning, but I don't particularly care for the radio controls on the steering wheel because they're very small and slotted down here, and I don't care for the very tiny smooth volume button here. A little problem that maybe you can help me with, and I don't know the answer to it, is the fact that when I'm playing the radio, and I generally play the radio fairly loud when I'm driving, but when someone calls in, it does not automatically mute the radio and go to the phone. I've got both going at the same time, and I don't know how to fix that. So please, 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 if you know the answer to that, throw that in the comments section, and that's one improvement I'd like to see. Thanks. Another positive feature about the GR Corolla that doesn't get talked about enough by the automotive press is the fact that it's very friendly for people who are not very experienced at driving clutches. And there's two features in particular. One is the fact that it has hill stay, so when you pull up to a light on a hill and you apply the brake will stay applied while you switch your foot over to the gas, probably for 5 or 6 seconds until you pull away. This is nothing new. My 2014 WRX had it. It was a nice feature. The other thing I really like about this car is the fact that it has kind of a clutch creep, where if you put the car in gear and say you're really not very experienced, take your foot off the brake and start letting out the clutch without even putting any effort onto the accelerator, the car actually begins to pull away, actually with a fair amount of energy, which is pretty nice. Another little tiny pet peeve that goes with this car, particularly with the infotainment system, which carries a lot of pet peeves in my opinion, is the fact that there's no home button. And many other cars, virtually all of them, have a button where somewhere it's an actual physical button that you can push home, and it will take you down to the basic functions of the infotainment system that you need to access, whether it's accessing cameras, whether it's getting to CarPlay, whether it's getting to settings or whatever. In the Toyota, it's a little bit of an extra step. You have to go down to that button. I've actually configured it so the Toyota button is my first choice, and then I go to that, and then that takes you to your options, where you can pick your different options as far as phone, as far as music, as far as navigation, and that gets you where you want to go. I do wish the car had separate camera functions so you could access the different cameras without having to put the car in reverse, but that's probably a big ask from Toyota. Well, with the amount of pet peeves outweighing the positive, pleasant surprises in this video, you might think that I don't like the Corolla GR, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I love the Corolla GR. There are many positives about this car, and the reality is a lot of those have been addressed already time and time again in other videos, so I didn't see any sense in really going over it. Overall, the car is beautiful. It's got just this beautiful stance. It's an aggressive looking car. The driving experience is fabulous. I love everything about it, but the little pet peeves are worth picking out, and they're worth fixing. So in the future, I'm going to do a few videos, a few projects, and we'll see if we can pretty easily fix some of those little pet peeves so they don't bug you, or at least me, anymore. You guys have a great day. We'll see you out there.